Great. So, hi everybody. This is a quick video where we're going to chat Karma Favours The Weak, as it was one of the top 4 songs voted by fans. So, I'm just going to start by saying hi to everybody. You obviously know who I am because I'm Joao and I'm the most popular member in the band. But if everyone else can just introduce themselves, that would be really, really good.
How are we doing this roundtable? I started talking, so I guess I go first. Starting with me, apparently. Hi, I'm Owen Gallagher. I do the keyboard thing / the guitar thing in this band. My Discord's going to occasionally flash green because it hates me and life is pain. Let's talk to that person over there. I'm pointing at Chris, I think. I'll give myself a mustache as well. Chris, your turn.
I'm Chris. I do the yelling and the occasional singing and the meadly weedlies and all the stuffs.
Now we go to this one. That's Leon. I don't know if anyone has the same display.
Correct on my screen at least. So yeah, I'm Leon. I play bass, and I'm one of the newer members in Orpheus. So I'm a baby here.
He plays the bass and provides the happies.
He does provide happiness. And now we go to this one. This feels like the weirdest, like, Malcolm in the Middle... Not the Malcolm in the Middle. Brady Bunch, that was it. Brady Bunch episode ever. Matt.
Oh, that's Joao on my screen. But, sure. Yeah, I'm Matt. I play the drums, sometimes known as the Malco Jr. And I'm one of the founding fathers of the band, I suppose.
You did come up with the name of it too.
Last.
And now let's talk to the ominous yellow blob.
Yay! Well, I have the brightest guitar in Orpheus, so I feel like that's probably pretty important. I also am one of the newbies, although I've been friends with the Orpheus guys for, best part of 10 years now, I think.
Gee, yeah.
Good lord, too long.
Yeah, I play the third guitar.
He's not important, so that's why he doesn't have a camera.
He's third chair.
Third chair Theo.
And why don't you have a camera, Theo?
I don't have a camera because I'm on a computer. And it's also COVID, and you can't buy webcams right now.
That was fair in the end.
That's true.
Just as probably something I should have suggested earlier is that I think if you connect it via USB with an app, you can just use your phone as a camera for your computer screen.
Actually, that's how I did my bass stream earlier this year at the start of COVID. Yeah. Did like a full playthrough of what we would have played for our download set on bass, and I'm just running like my phone off to the side, connected via Wi-Fi, and there's an app for it and everything. And I'm like, this actually came out really well. Better than my
Isn't Chris on a phone anyway? Chris is on a phone anyway. Back to Joao.
Back on track.
The data radar.
So we're going to talk about Karma Favours The Weak as a song. Not only how we feel about it as individuals in the band, but also some of the processes that went into writing the song and writing the lyrics. And I guess I'm going to hand it off to Chris, just real quick, just to sort of go through, I guess, where the idea for the song came about. Because if I'm not mistaken, these are your lyrics.
It's kind of weird that we're at the point where sometimes I'm actually confused of like, did I write that or did Joao write that one? So it just shows that we spent way too much time together, if anything. Karma Favours The Weak was one of the first songs that was written for PVM. It was actually during the sort of like demo process that we were doing, which was 3 songs originally, just to get into the vibe of writing PVM. And the opening guitar riff, which is still like one of my favorite riffs to play in general, was the first thing I wrote for that song. And the second thing I wrote for it was actually the chorus. So those 2 riffs existed, and they were just sort of sitting there until I had the lyric inspiration for the song and then continued writing it. It was one of those weird things where I actually saw someone post something on Facebook, something about karma going their way, and it was kind of I do remember the post being like karma ended up helping someone, but for like not necessarily a positive thing. I think it was like, against someone else. And I remember just in my head, the Karma Favours The Weak was like literally the first thing that popped into my mind reading it, which was just was like, oh okay, that's the title of this song now. And then the song really came together pretty quickly, just based around the idea of people only think, or things like karma, treating things like karma as a helpful mechanism. People only believe in it when it helps them, but also ignore the downsides to something like karma. So the idea of the ideas behind the song and the lyrics really do sort of come from the perspective of you can't just pick and choose. When you choose to like things, you have to take the good with the bad, and karma is one of those things that you don't get to go, oh, well, there's karma when it suits you. It's also when things go wrong as well. That's how the world works. You take the good and the bad, so on and so forth. So that for me was a big lyric inspiration, and especially with what was going on in my life at the time, it was one of those situations where it was like I had to take the good and the bad together to be able to move forward in my own life, and I think a lot of those things are reflected in the lyrics. So that was the main inspirations for me writing that, or a large portion of that song and the lyrics.
Hey, cool.
Stepping back, I was going.
Yeah, I guess like going from that, Kez, I'm just moving through people. How does karma resonate with you as not only a musician but a member of the band?
I was going to talk about a history thing I remember about Chris writing the song, but okay. As for me, was Karma's was actually because it was one of the first ones we actually concluded for like PVM. I remember it being one of the ones we had the early stage of the demo, and it was one of the very first ones we had like finished ticked off. So that was an interesting one for me because that was kind of when we kind of got together and went, okay, this is where this album's shaping up. Here's where we're trying some new stuff, like in regards to especially having clean vocals. It was actually the first song Chris sent us demos for, which had clean vocals on. Yeah. I remember him actually sending us just this little snippet, and it was because we'd already heard the intro riff and the chorus, and he sent to us this little snippet of, guys, like, Joao's gonna hate it, don't stress out, but I'm trying a clean thing, and we're just like, you fucking what? Like, and I remember it was like, Joe was like, it's okay. I'm like, what, you like it? And Joe was like, it's okay. Because there was an ongoing joke for ages that we would never have cleans in the band, otherwise Joao would leave. Back in Resolution Day, Joao said that, so he'd leave. And yet we put cleans in a song and he's still here, so it didn't work. But it was an interesting one looking back and thinking about how that song grew and how it kind of shaped the overarching idea of the album. Because back when we originally wrote that song, that was before we had any inkling of doing it as a concept album. So it was an interesting approach there, because back then that was us just looking at a group of songs. Especially some of the more experimental sections, like it's got a much bigger bridge riff than other thing we'd experimented with before, and a lot more instrumentation. So it was a fun song to grow, to write, and shaped a lot of the trajectory for that album. And to Matt.
Matt, tell us a bit.
All right. So sort of coming off what Kez said, it was one of the first songs that had clean vocals in it, which, I guess we all weren't sure how that was going to go down. And we were like, it was the first time we were playing with that. But then I was pleasantly surprised when I first heard them. And I was just like, this song's definitely going to be like a hit, if you will. There's not much to say in terms of the drums for it, just because it's a very guitar-driven song, for sure. I think everyone knows it for that main/intro riff, whatever you want to call it. And in terms of lyrics, like, generally speaking, I look over the lyrics that we get sent within the band, and I'm like, I just tick it off and say, yeah, that sounds good. But then, like, coming back to it and rereading some of the lyrics later on, I'm like, wow, all of our lyrics I've been pretty stoked with, and that song in particular was like, yeah, like, it had a lot of depth to it, so to speak. In terms of drums, there's not much else to say. It sort of wrote itself. Very guitar-driven song. It's a fun one to play live. Sure.
Compared to how crazy some of the drums on PVM got, that song's a lot more relaxed than some of the other stuff.
Yeah, definitely pretty straightforward. It fell into place.
Also, the lyrics spawned some good memes. Remember, Karma Favours My Beef?
I swear there was I swear there was a point in time where we ended up having some caption thing where someone ended up with a free album just because one of the memes was so freaking good. I do remember sending him.
Yes, we gave someone a free album because memes.
On the note of the drums, though, Matt, I do think one of the things for me, especially with obviously from the perspective of a very guitar-driven song, and the drums writing themselves. The way that you tend to flavor the songs and put those little bits in that are just very much your style of writing help those guitar-driven songs to sound better, because you're doing a really good job of accenting some of those things that may not come out without the right drumming. So I know that like during the chorus, a couple of the things you're doing with the toms, even though you're playing like that main beat with the straight kicks under it, those extra tom accents are really bringing out what the lead melody does over that chorus. And I never thought about that until I started mixing it, and then I was just like, oh man, this sounds fucking awesome, because it was really helping this part that without it would have been fine, but it, instead of just driving the part, it helps accent it. So I think that's one thing that I appreciate in the songwriting process. When there are songs that maybe aren't as diverse on the drums or give you as much leeway, you tend to sort of milk as much as you can out of it, which is very helpful from the guitar side. So I think Karma is one of those songs that maybe doesn't come across as super, maybe, you know, not super impressive or flashy on the drums, but it's the intricacies that make it work so well, like that part, and especially what you're doing during the bridge and how well that part progresses overall into the solo. They're parts for me that help when I'm recording guitars or thinking about the parts. They really helped exemplify those bits. So while the parts are not overly complicated or anything, the way you go about writing stuff in those terms is super helpful for the rest of us, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
All right. Back to that one.
I guess from a new member's perspective, both Leon and Theo didn't take part in the writing process around this song, but obviously both had a chance to learn the song, and it definitely impacts on how you play and, you know, what you get out of the song. Because at least for me, as a player, I know which songs I prefer playing over songs I don't prefer playing, and it's all about, I guess, the energy that I get from those songs. So I guess I want to ask both Theo and Leon, and let me know which one of you guys wants to answer first, how you feel about this song, whether it's in your favorites or your least favorites, and why that would be.
Go Theo first.
All right. Well, I do quite enjoy Karma. First of all, it was probably one of the easier ones for me to memorize. But that being said, the first riff, the theme riff, or whatever you want to call it, the octave jumpy pedal tone goodness, that was quite a workout for me, because I don't typically do that much string skipping wider than 2 strings. And there's a little phrase in there which is a 3-string jump just towards the end, and it was a really good practice tool for me. So I found it challenging but rewarding at the same time. It was kind of a small level up in my technical ability that I wasn't expecting to find there. And nailing it, I always just go, I couldn't do that at first, and now it's all good. And it's just like a little mini accomplishment every time I play it. It gives me good feels. But yeah, it's kind of a fun, bouncy song, and I really do enjoy just jamming that one out. It's probably like one of the more, it's on the more regular roster of things I just jam for fun. Let's say that.
Awesome. Leon.
Well, I really, really like this song. I think this was the first song I heard from Orpheus that instantly just made me go, yeah, they're up there in my like favorite band category, like ever. As soon as this video came out, it was, I really, really loved it. And then now that I get to play it, it's an even bigger level of like, oh my god, I love this. The song to play is really, really fun, especially on bass. Like, most people go, oh, bass is boring or easy peasy for a guitarist like myself, but I genuinely find it like somewhat still challenging. There's a bit of string skipping, there's, you know, running a little bit all over the place. The big middle break section has like a really nice kind of like bass only part that kind of resonates really nicely with the lead guitars that go over the top, and it's just really, really fun to play. And I remembered the first gig I played with Orpheus, this song was a bit of a challenge because it's like, well, I remember Kez blew out his voice and I had to do backup screams for the chorus of this song. And I'm like, 2 seconds before I'm on stage, I've got my phone. I'm like, all right, quick, what are the lyrics? This. All right, quick, what are the lyrics again? This. Awesome.
Leon's first gig with us, I was dying from glandular fever. I remember I went up to the mic, tried to scream like,
like, I got you, buddy. I got it. I'm over here. I got it. As soon as the gig finished, our sound guy, Gary, goes to me. He's like, that was you screaming up there, wasn't it? He's like, I'm like, yeah. And he's like, awesome. Don't do that again. You're going to blow out your voice. And I'm like, I'm doing it wrong.
Into the deep end for you, mate.
Very. But it was very fun. And this song was one of the ones that just, will continue to be extremely fun to play live on stage. There are some good bouncy parts. There are really good heavy parts. It's just fun. It's such a great song.
I think one thing you touched on that we didn't discuss or bring up to talk about, though, is the video clip. Those trio of video clips from PVM that go together with the story are still some of my favorite video clips of ours, and I think specifically the Karma Favours The Weak video clip is one of my favorites, just because I really feel for
You just enjoyed being a dick in an elevator. That's all it was.
I enjoyed it, but our protagonist, I felt for him when I watched the footage back, because I wasn't there watching all of the parts being filmed specifically, and then when we got the first draft back, I was just like, oh, yeah, it's
poor guy.
It's exactly how those lyrics were meant to be.
Yeah, working with
So it was. I really love that video clip. It's still fun to watch back, even though it is like you have that tense feeling, like when you watch a character in a movie have like that shithouse moment in their life, and like that was me watching the whole video clip. I'm like, correct.
Working with Danny Nolan, who like co-produced, directed, and edited, and made all the video clips, and Cassidy, who was our lead actor, was a lot of fun for those.
Absolutely.
I can't remember Cassidy's last name, so he doesn't get one.
Instigator.
What was that, Joel?
Mark was a good instigator in the background.
Pulling the strings.
Yeah. I guess, like, it's interesting, though, like, obviously coming from Theo and Leon just discussing the playing of the song, and something I think sometimes people don't realize with our music. And I think the thing is, when people listen to music, they have this idea of the way a song sounds, therefore it must be played in a particular way. And obviously Theo touched on, the string skipping at the start of that song is some people. Obviously there's people out there who do huge string skips, and there's people who are extremely talented on guitar and other instruments that make, certain songs just easy. But I think something that sometimes gets, I guess, not noticed is some of the stuff we've written over the years sounds really easy, but it's not.
I do actually remember that was one of Dan's comments, our previous bass player, Dan from Navarus, in case any of you haven't checked them out. I remember when I think Dan was just trying to muck around and play some of the songs on guitar, and he's like, I didn't think your songs were this hard, or they didn't sound that hard. And I guess the point Theo touches on, especially with the string skipping, is definitely one of my favorite things to do. Because I know, like, even playing guitar in Eye of the Enemy as well, Kano's a freaking freak of a rhythm guitarist, but he's not huge on the string skipping. So anytime I've written something that's like that, he's just like, why would you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, to me that's natural. So it really brings out the different things of different playing styles. And when you're trying to play something someone else has written, you may not, I guess the intricacies may not come across until you actually have to play them. And that's something I've realized with other music as well. But some of our songs in hindsight, I guess, and also having to do vocals over them, maybe some of them are a bit more intricate than I thought they were when I've had to go back and then go, okay, now I've got to do vocals. And it's like, why?
You have a pretty strange approach to playing guitar anyway, honestly. Like, you don't use your pinky, and you do like baseball bat grip half the time, and you do a lot of slidey stuff, and you have a pretty good right hand, so...
to be funny point, I've had to get rid of the baseball grip, which is for anyone who's, like, it's a bit more of an old school rocky kind of thing, where you've sort of got your thumb over the top of the neck, which is how I learned how to play guitar. And yeah, as the riffs have, I guess, gotten more intricate and I've, had to get tighter and whatever, I've pretty much, I guess, incorporated a better, more accepted technique of having my thumb on the back of the neck, so it's a lot easier to move around. I have had to adjust as time's gone on. Like, the more shows you play, the more I'm focusing on vocals. It's like I need to make the instrument more flowy and just easier and more efficient. So yeah, that's definitely one of the things that's come on board.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, great flick. How is it for you to play live, Kev?
Oh god. So live is an interesting one. So certain songs we've done. My approach to keyboards, it kind of changes per song. Some songs are more about lots and lots of layers and just little fill stuff in the background, where some songs it's pretty much I'll literally just play it. Like, so some songs are multiple layers, some songs are just basically me playing along with a couple of patches. Karma's a lot of layers. Like, just the intro, I think, has like 6 different keyboard parts that all harmonize differently, just kind of low in the background. So what I play live for that song is pretty different to like exactly how the album goes, just because there's a lot of parts where it's almost physically impossible, because a lot of that song was scored out rather than played out. So especially so like the bridge section was the dun 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 dun. I've kind of just turned that into kind of just like a fun piano large chord improvised section based around the chord movements, rather than trying to play exactly what's on the album, because what I scored out on the album I actually wrote for like 4 hands on a proper 88 key piano. So
he was hoping he would have mutated by then, but it just never happened.
Yeah, I know, just my goals of becoming a Shiva-like deity just failed again. So especially when I was back playing on a keytar where you had very little left-hand access, that basically became alright, how can I just move this around and play basically the main chords and the main melody parts, but keep it interesting. So it's been a much more, that song's changed a lot compared to how it's recorded to how it gets presented live. It's much more about just big chords and layers and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's a fun one to play, but I'm much more on the backup duties on keyboards on that song. Like, there isn't that much leading keyboard melodies. It backs the guitar a lot.
And I guess just to close this off, let's have a quick word with Matt about how he feels about the drums, playing that song live, obviously being a bit more relaxed, as you mentioned. Yep. Is it still enjoyable for you, I guess?
Yeah. If anything, I'd probably say the more relaxed, easier difficulty songs are probably more fun to play live, because you can literally be on autopilot. I can probably, have Joel come and high-five me during the song.
I'm
usually thinking about what I'm going to get for dinner after the gig.
Halfway through Karma, chicken parma.
Yeah, and a rhyme.
I do have a quick question for you in that regard. And I know it is the case for me, and this probably applies to everyone, but like, when there are the songs that I guess I have less duties, or I can like pull back a bit and relax, I feel like I get to appreciate playing the song live a bit more. Whereas something like In Time or whatever, a song that's maybe a bit more intense and full on, I'm just trying to make sure I play the parts right. Do you find maybe with something like Karma versus, I guess, In Time or one of the more intense songs, do you find you have more time to appreciate being like just in the moment playing it, or does it not really change depending on the song?
Yeah, like for example, the opposite of Karma for me would probably be something like Suffer, where I'm really concentrating on not screwing up. It's like when I play Suffer, my soul leaves my body and then returns once the song's over. And I'm like, what the heck? It's like that. When you play Karma, at least I can appreciate and remember what just happened, and like I'm in the moment. But there's a few songs that are just like, you concentrate so hard, you're watching yourself from above. But yeah, Karma's the opposite. Karma's always been really chill.
Awesome. And I guess with that outer body experience from Matt, we'll call that a wrap on Karma Favours The Weak, and what it was for us from start to finish.
The sun's now blinding me and my face.
Awesome. So thanks guys for having a listen to this, and we've got heaps of material for you guys in ISO and during all these lockdowns. So stay tuned.
And at some point, I guess we'll have to talk about album 5.
Oh, we get it. We're doing one of those.
I just drank an entire liter of sparkling water during this video. I need to leave.
I'm getting lit.
Thank you so much, guys. See ya.